Assalamualaikum and good day. We are from Maybank Archive Group. MArc will present our proposal plan for preservation of digital archive program. Do enjoy.
MArc is an acronym created by Maybank Archive without anyone's copyright, and since 2021, the company was led by CEO Muhammad Faiz Asyraf bin Tarjudin. The job position in MArc consists of Chief Executive Officer, which is CEO, Digital Archivist, IT Specialist, Digital Curator, Metadata Specialist, Archive Specialist, and Archive Assistant. In Maybank Archive, the main activity is including the process of appraisal, acquisitioning, preservation, organization and description, access and use, reference and staff service are all the administrative associated to archival, keep and use. And for the information, Maybank Archive holds a mostly collection of primary source documents that gathered throughout the course of a person's or organization lifetime and retained to demonstrate the function of the person or the organization itself. Maybank Archive mission is to becoming a leading archive institution and providing the archival services to the organization. And vision of Maybank Archive is to secure, preserve, organize the archival collection and accessible to the organization. The main objective of Maybank Archive is to maintain and preserve all Maybank Archive document and records, plus to ensure secure storage and access to all document in their custody. And also to enhance the integrity, transparency, accountability and responsiveness in digital preservation, and last but not least, to provide advice to all Maybank branches in Malaysia on how to properly care for digital records. Our main intended audience are including school students, university students, family, researchers, and also to other Maybank branches in Malaysia. The way expert works in the archive institution has changed dramatically during the last 2 decades, especially after pandemic COVID-19, because it gives a huge impact including to the archive institutions. Beyond physical collection that often exists in the archive institution, digitization of archive will give a continued expanding toolbox for investigating and also studying in the records of Maybank Archive. The issue here is on the criteria for selecting collection for digitization, as well as on how they are displayed online, because it is poorly specified and required more debate and discussion. And plus, a deliberate approach to content selection for digitization has not been intensively implemented in the archive institution, including Maybank Archive itself. Not only that, slow digitization of archive will progressively uncover the various layers of evidence in the archive collection. That's similar on how the archaeologists might study a pot slowly and meticulously. And last but not least, among the serious problems being faced by the archivists in this era is it would be difficult for them to save the archival material from deterioration during the pandemic, as government will lift movement control restriction, especially for archival paper-based material. It is because paper-based archival material is delicate and easily damaged, and archive substance that needs extra care from time to time. The goal of digital preservation is to minimize the impact of deterioration factor on archival material. Our organization will use digital preservation to preserve archival content, as well as using digital technology to monitor the historical material for damage, and will take fast action if there is any problem. Some digital preservation objectives are relates to the preservation of archive material of future records that has been digitized, which is to maintain digital material archive. Next is to preserve information's historical value, also to minimize the consequences of deterioration elements, and to help in saving space and time in every way possible. And last but not least, to keep a comprehensive and flexible digital preservation schemes in place.
present about our Maybank Archive digital preservation timeline. In the first month, we will have a meeting in the first month to discuss strategies and also set a target to digitize the materials on the fifth month for establishing digital preservation for Maybank Archive. We will deliver a working paper at this conference to ensure that everything runs well. We will consult professionals trained in digital preservation throughout the establishment process, since we do not want to suffer huge losses in the future. Our goal for the first month is to have the proper framework in place for the program to run smoothly in the future. On the next month, our Maybank Archive structure for implementing the digital preservation program will be determined. Furthermore, we will do study on digital preservation, such as the benefits of this program and the drawbacks of digital preservation, so that we are always prepared in the event of disaster. We will also consult specialists during the implementation of this program in order to avoid future big losses. On the third month, we will define our actual targets for our digital preservation implementation program. This signifies that the program implementation will be more serious at this point because we'll be determining the program standards and approach. We will also figure out how to make this digital preservation easily accessible to people at this point. We will figure out how we can make it easier for others to use digital preservation. We will also try to have a conversation about what features we can employ to make this application more user-friendly for everyone. On the next month, after the appraisal is completed, we will write a report that summarizes the maintenance need found during the evaluation process. Environmental control, disaster, preparation, safety, housekeeping, collection, storage and housing, reformatting, and conservation treatment are all covered in the study with observation and recommendation. We will also supply executive reports for evaluation reports that outline maintenance priorities for the short, medium and long term. Also, in the same month, we'll prepare the budget we'll need to implement this digital preservation once the written report is complete. It is extremely significant and must be examined from every viewpoint in order to avoid losses. It must be quite high to build this digital preservation. Throughout the duration of this evaluation exercise, we must compute all budget amounts. We will identify the gear and software that we will utilize in this digital preservation in the same month that we deliver the budget. All of the goods required for digital preservation will be listed and obtained at this time. On the fifth month, we will begin to start our digital preservation about 5 materials and developing the system of our headquarters and ensure that all of our planning back then runs smoothly and makes Maybank Archive system has the most user compared to another system. Last but not least, on the 6th month, we will test the digital preservation when we gather all of the prerequisites for implementing it before releasing to the general public. There will undoubtedly be issues that arise during the course of this trial that will require correction and improvement. We will open the program to the public after everything is completed and no problem arises, and we will continue to solicit public feedback in order to improve our digital preservation performance in the future. As you guys can see here, I attached our Gantt chart of our Maybank Archive digital preservation timeline.
In order to preserve digital archive institution document in the archive institution, the use of 3 digital preservation methodologies, which is emulation, refreshing and migration, are the tactics being used. Firstly is emulation. Emulation is more concerned about application software rather than with data files. It combines software and hardware to replicate significant elements of one computer on another that allowed programs created for one environment to run on multiple computers and allowing programs or material built for one environment to operate in different environments. Emulation also necessitates the development of emulator, which are software programs that translate codes and instructions across different platforms, and that is why old data can be run on modern systems. Second is refreshing, which is to avoid obsolescence or deterioration of the storage medium, because physical storage device degrade with time and technical advances make older storage device inaccessible to new systems. And that is why regular refreshing may be required for years to come. Plus, hard drives should be tested on a regular basis to ensure that they are still functional. When a hard drive reaches the end of its useful life, the data on it must be transferred to a new hard drive. Last but not least is migration. Data migrates from one hardware to software configuration to another, or from one generation of computer technology to the next on a regular basis. Important characteristic of the data are preserved. Gradual migration will reduce the number of standard file format available. And the goals of migration is to keep digital assets intact while also allowing our archive organization to access, display and use them in the face of rapidly changing technologies.
Okay, now we will move to the next slide, which is type of material or collection that need to be digitized. The first one is textual documents. The process of transforming paper documents into a digital format that computer system may use to automate processes or workflows is called document digitization. It increases operational efficiency and ensures that processes function smoothly. Maintaining, storing, retrieving and processing digital documents is simple. Physical records management expenses, time and effort are reduced. The second one is photograph. It is important and memorable experiences are captured in photograph, which can be treasured and shared in the future. Digitally archiving photograph entails scanning actual photograph into a computer and saving them as digital image for preservation, editing, or replication purposes. The next one is maps, plans, and oversized record. Digitizing big archival materials such as maps, plans, posters, registers, and artworks present numerous obstacles as each item is unique. To digitize these oversized items, proper management is essential to avoid damage to the record while also increasing accessibility and discoverability. Comprehensive metadata is essential for easy searching and accessibility, allowing employees and researchers to find the digital records they want. Next one is graphic records. Line drawing, artistic, illustration, and other similar documents are examples of graphic records. Original records, photocopies, photographic copying, negative or transparency, and microfilm are all media forms that should be available for scanning. Maps, plans, and other large graphic records are scanned in the same way that photographs are. Graphic documents must be digitized for the sake of portability and storage. Last but not least, audiovisual records. A company, organization, activities, and functions are rarely documented in audiovisual record, but they often offer unique information about numerous elements of the organization operations. They are extremely valuable for study because of their wealth of information. For example, recording of events of hearing tend to be long-lasting, even if it is possible to predict all audiovisual records that may have long-term study value. Moreover, research and development projects that have high degree of significance require visual documentation, including accident investigation, public education films, video tapes, and publicity images. Now, I will present about the process of digitization of archive. The digitization process, also known as imaging or scanning, involves converting non-digital or hard copy documents to digital format. Digitization can also be achieved by taking digital pictures of the source records if necessary. It also helps reduce physical space requirement and provides a more faster document search and retrieval method. As you guys can see here, I attach some of the digitization of archive, which is textual document process, photograph and graphic record digitizing process. Last but not least, oversized records digitizing process.
Digital archives are viewed as an alternative to traditional archive. There are several advantages of digitizing the archive material. Firstly, of course, it will save time and easy to retrieve. Using the internet, digital archive is available to be used by other Maybank branches anytime, anywhere for their references. Secondly, it is as preservation for future modern era to ensure the digital preservation and protection of digital archive data over the long term so that they can be continue to be accessed and to be used appropriately in the future. Thirdly, it is easy to maintain compared to a traditional management system because digital archive is simpler to maintain and administer. Lastly, the digital archive can be set as backup during disaster. All the characteristics and capabilities of the original product are preserved digitally, and the process of conversion or migration does not result in the loss of any elements.
Disadvantages of digital archive. Firstly, financing. According to Pandey and Mishra 2014, digitizing archive asset is expensive due to the requirement for regular hardware and software updates and escalating costs of electronic database subscription. In addition, educating archivists also requires financial resources due to incompetent archivists create insurmountable barriers. Furthermore, in digital preservation, which is the act of maintaining continuing accessible through time, therefore, each stage of the digital life cycle is costly to preserve materials in a long term. Secondly, storage capacity. Small collection can require several terabytes of storage. Furthermore, when larger file types need to be transported, they are frequently divided into a number of smaller files, or they are compressed in a manner that poses a potential threat to the data integrity and authenticity when the files are unpacked. Thirdly, technological obsolescence. According to Pandey and Mishra 2014, the constant upgrading of software, including operating system, programming languages, and storage media, is a primary contributor to the phenomenon of technological obsolescence. Lastly, refreshing. Information is lost when it is transferred from one program to another. Digital duplicates of identical files can be made, but software programmers can't be duplicated. Thus, it can lead to the file cannot be read. Furthermore, when it comes to preserve the materials, it is also possible that third-party cloud storage service will cease operations.
Next, we will go to the roles and responsibilities of person involved in digitization. There are 6 positions that will be explained in this video. Firstly, the Chief Executive Officer or CEO. He will advise on record management and archiving, and also help activities such as workshop and digital archive material. Secondly, the Digital Archivist. She will lead in imaging and digital financial activities to create imaging workflow for all types of digital data and the development of policies and procedure. Thirdly, the digital curator. Digital curator will be ascending or altering basic software, metadata formats, and creating publicly accessible user workflow for material in a good form. Fourthly, IT specialist. It will be responsible for information technology system implementation, monitoring, and maintenance to focuses on networking analysis, system administration, security, and data insurance. Fifthly, metadata specialist. Metadata specialist will design and manage digital collection by defining metadata scheme, regulated vocabularies, software, hardware, and responsible for acquiring new or amendment Maybank archive document updates. Lastly, the archive specialist who will be maintaining current or semi-current records, as well as corporate cataloging system and records, scheduling and disposal, as well as finding aids and retrieval methods.
Disaster management. Disaster management is the practice of efficiently planning for and responding to disaster. It entails deliberately allocating resources to mitigate the damage caused by calamities, and it also entails a systematic strategy to managing the duties of catastrophe prevention, preparedness, response, and recovery. The disaster management circle depicts the continual process by which government, corporation, and civil society plan for and mitigate the effect of catastrophe, react during and shortly after a disaster, and to take action to recover after a disaster has happened. Next, preparedness measure including preparedness plan, emergency exercise, warning system, emergency communication system, evacuation planning and training resources inventory, emergency contact list, and public information. So last but not least, the disaster recovery planner should study their organization business continuity plan, which should include the recovery point objective and recovery time objective metrics.
Security. According to Trinkus Randall 1998, archivists must provide access, preservation, security, and storage in a secure, non-damaging environment, as well as design realistic measures to protect materials from theft, use damage, and disaster. Therefore, Maybank Archive will implement proper security to protect it. Firstly, smart access. In the Maybank Archive, the use of smart access is required for all doors and sections with users limits. It is installed in order to guarantee that unauthorized person will not be able to open them. Secondly, CCTV. CCTV cameras have been installed in the Maybank Archive for the purpose of monitoring both the inside and exterior of the property, which have been installed in relevant location. Thirdly, monitored alarms. Installing monitored alarms at Maybank Archive provide quick protection against intruders and are handled remotely 24 hours a day. Alarms that are monitored may also be activated by other events such as the opening of doors or windows, the breaking or cracking of windows, or the use of force to enter a building. Security in digital material. Firstly, authentication. Any position in the archive that wants to access to a particular document, they should be required to provide a unique username and password. This authentication not only grants users certain privilege but also creates an audit trail that shows who viewed a document, when they accessed it, and what action they made while they were there. Secondly, data traffic. It stops malicious hackers from gaining access to important company information and documents such as password, user information, and financial data. Thirdly, encryption. Encryption using advanced encryption standard 256-bit SSL are used in Maybank Archive for every document. This type of protection is where the encryption converts plain text into a type of secret code that cannot be deciphered by hackers, cybercriminals, or other online snoops. Antivirus and firewalls. Maybank Archive will install antivirus and spyware protection software. An antivirus tool will protect Maybank Archive computer from infection that could harm data, slow down, or shut down the computer. Antivirus software will also scan incoming emails and files for viruses and remove them. Furthermore, Maybank Archive will install a firewall to prevent hacking. A firewall prevents Maybank Archive from communicating with unauthorized sources. Insurance management. Archives are usually obliged to carry property insurance to protect records and other items against physical or virtual damage. According to Kagan 2021, an insurance policy is a contract between an individual or organization and an insurance company that provides financial protection or payment in the case of a loss. There are many important coverages in insurance by CHAP. Among the important coverages of CHAP for Maybank Archive including, firstly, loss of revenue owing to the interruption of business caused by a breach in network security, an attack on the network, human errors, or programming problems. Secondly, loss of data and attempts to restore it, along with decontamination and recovery. Lastly, expenses related to crisis communications and the management of reputational damage.
So for Maybank Archive, we have chosen CHAP Insurance Malaysia Berhad that can cover technology sector for digital archive. For that reason, we will need to pay for the premium that Maybank Archive are required to pay, and it could change depending on several factors, some of which included the maximum amount of liability that are exposed to the number of claims CHAP Insurance have filed in the past. In their requirement, Maybank Archive also required to pay several taxes, including one that costs 10 ringgit and is known as stamp duty. Finally, commission will be paid for the insurance intermediary that might reach up to 25% of the premium.
The financial issues of ensuring that digital preservation projects function smoothly must be addressed, and the digital preservation system should be in a strong position to improve further. Here is the list of equipment hardware need to, such as printer, scanner, computer sets, Wi-Fi, microfilm scanner, flatbed scanner, mouse, and keyboards.
Office table in corner shape, office table and chair, fire alarm, smoke detector and CCTV are the hardware equipment that we choose for our archives. Next, moving to software equipment, there are several software that we are considered as need, such as Dropbox, antivirus, storage in cloud, Microsoft 365 operating systems such as iOS and Android, and also the last one, internet browser.
Compliance. There are three standard compliance with ISO that Maybank Archive has pledged to build digital preservation, which are 14721/OAIS, ISO 16363/TDR, and ISO 16919. Firstly, ISO 1721-2003 and ISO 1721-2012 are both versions of the Open Archival Material System, which is a reference model for the requirements that must be met by an archive in order to ensure the long-term preservation of digital information. Secondly, ISO 16363-2012, which are audit and certification of trustworthy digital repositories, where it gives out complete metrics for what an archive must achieve based on open archival material system. And lastly, ISO 16919-2014, which are needs for inspecting and certifying candidate trustworthy digital repositories, define auditing bodies' competency and requirements.
Furthermore, Asyraf has made substantial contribution to the OAIS reference model and other worldwide projects in digital preservation, as well as the establishment of preservation management of digital material. Besides that, the National Archive and Record Administration (NARA) offers a variety of links about the management of electronic data. These links cover topics such as the requirement for the transfer of archival electronic record and the administration of web records.
Strength in SWOT. Access to information 24/7. This means that when archive materials is already digitized and made available online, the information can be accessed by users anytime and anywhere due to it can be found in the internet. Secondly, designed to benefit all kinds of users. This is because the person who needs information from archive is not only for students or researchers. This can include reporters, writers, historians, and people seeking information on the history. Lastly, in terms of focus, the strength can increase efficiency and productivity. When the establishment of digital archive occurs, it means indirectly the use of other digital materials are also used, such as computers. Therefore, employees can communicate, share information, share the materials with each other more quickly and easily regardless of their location. Therefore, the workers can perform their tasks better.
One of the difficulties the archive organization face through their weakness is conflicting with the opportunities. There are three weaknesses that we can detect in our archive, which is it got technology of free and staff advertised. Hence, there are several staff that are lacking of knowledge in digital preservation, and also we got different users with different needs.
Although we have weakness for our Maybank Archive digital preservation, we still got opportunities. The first one is maximum accessibility for users. The next one is uniformity of metadata that user-friendly. And last but not least, solution for rights management makes user easy to use.
In digitization, of course, there will be threats that can happen anytime, anywhere that will be troublesome for the people or system. Firstly, lack of supporting legislation to facilitate preservation such as copyright. And Maybank Archive is unable to carry out necessary preservation action and unable to meet legal requirement. Besides that, the ransomware. Ransomware is already a common threat to businesses such as viruses. Next, file format obsolescence. Here I tell the situation. Making software compatible with such formats or converting the files themselves into a more open format can only be done with permission from the patent holder, and in turn bring its own set of issues. Lastly, media and hardware failure. Failures causes included random bit errors, breakdown of embedded electronic components, burnout, and misuse of offline disks and tapes.
As a conclusion, we gradually identify all concerns of digital archiving about on what, how, by what, for whom, and what method, and according to what tactic, and so on. We also have intellect and comprehended the ties to all statutory restraint pertaining to this archiving procedure both closely and distantly. The task is to devise tactics for collaboration with rival profession. Maybank Archives are important because we provide evidence of activity and tells more about individual and institution. As such, the archives are an essential tool for archiving administrative efficiency and economy, as we provide ready access to the government past experience, including its successes and failures.